The words hit me like a slap, though she didn't even raise her voice. Just flat, casual. You're nothing. I froze because I hadn't expected honesty. Not the brutal kind, not directed at me, not from someone I trusted, not the woman I had spent years building a life with. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, arms crossed, eyes sharp. She looked triumphant, proud almost, like she had discovered a truth I couldn't face. You really think that's fair? I asked calmly. She shrugged. It's not about fair. It's about reality. Reality. The word echoed in my mind. Reality was what I was about to hand her, one measured sentence at a time. I took a breath, leaned back in my chair, and spoke. First, I know who I am. Her eyebrows raised, a small smirk. She thought she had shaken me. She hadn't. Second, I know what I deserve. Now the smirk faltered. Her eyes narrowed. She tilted her head, listening, suddenly aware that the man in front of her wasn't the same one she had been criticizing for months. Third, I said quietly, letting each word land like deliberate steps across fragile ground. I won't let anyone tell me my value, including you. She sat there, stunned. The air between us thick, heavy, sharp. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. For once, she didn't know what to say. This was a woman who had spent years testing my patience, undermining my confidence, flirting with the idea of someone else while pretending she was just unhappy. A woman who had thought her words could define me. And for the first time, they didn't. I stood. Slowly. Purposefully. I walked to the door without raising my voice, without letting her see the rage simmering beneath calm skin. I'm leaving, I said. Not a question. Not a plea. A statement. Her hand shot out as if to grab me, but I didn't look back. I opened the door and walked into the night, the cold air hitting me like permission to breathe again. The following weeks were hard. Friends noticed my absence. Co-workers asked questions I didn't want to answer. But I didn't check my phone. I didn't look for her. I didn't second-guess my choice. She tried. Oh, she tried. Calls, texts, emails, apologies, explanations, promises of change. Every message was carefully crafted to tug at old habits I had spent years building. The man who forgave too easily. The man who valued her approval over his own peace. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't feel. Not because I wasn't tempted. But because I finally knew my worth wasn't tied to anyone else's whims. Months later, I heard she had moved on. Of course she had. She always did. She always needed someone to validate her, to elevate her sense of superiority. But I didn't care. I had built something new in my absence. Quiet strength, independence, a life that didn't revolve around her or her manipulations. I realized something essential. Respect isn't demanded, it's earned. Loyalty isn't obligated, it's chosen. And self-worth is something no one can take. Not even someone who thinks they can define you with 3 cruel words. When I finally ran into her again, months later by chance, I noticed the hesitation in her eyes. She had expected weakness. Maybe tears. Maybe begging. Maybe the man who once accepted her insults as truth. But she saw someone different. Someone whole. Someone calm. Someone she couldn't control. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. My presence said enough. I walked past her with a quiet nod and left her stunned once more. That night, I realized something even deeper. Sometimes the most powerful words aren't shouted. Sometimes the most impactful revenge isn't plotting or punishing. Sometimes it's just standing firm, saying nothing, and walking away while they stare at the consequences of their own cruelty. Her words, "You're nothing," had been meant to wound. Instead, they became the spark I needed to reclaim my life. And the 3 sentences I spoke, they weren't just about her. They were about me. About finally understanding that I am more than anyone's opinion, more than anyone's betrayal, more than anyone's attempt to define me. And that knowledge, that power, was worth everything.